Okay, so enough with throwing flowers at myself. Someone's got to do it. No one will, so I will. But if we eliminate the teachers from the vote, after all, they really aren't stakeholders. The left thinks so. But we know today, we knew then, we know now, that it is 100% bumpkiss. Teachers come and go at the behest of the superintendent. In fact, I would say 30-40% of the parents understand that 30-40%, maybe even 50% of the teachers are no longer at the Key Biscayne K-8 Center, who voted almost unanimously, 83-01, to no to convert the K-8 Center to charter by demanding I resign 1 week before the election, as 103 parents in the PTA membership out of the 400 total PTA members, maybe even 500, I was PTA president at the time, comes into a special session that I didn't have any faintest idea about, and I'm chairman of special sessions as per bylaws. All of a sudden, fill up the cafeteria, 103 parents. As I'm sitting there on the typical cafeteria drama stage that's also acting as a cafeteria, I'm sitting here not in bewilderment because I'm quite expecting this. It's the reason for running for PTA, to heighten this conversation, to elevate the conversation into a national audience. Of course, having more faith in you, the viewer, actually giving a damn. And I hit the gavel. Before I did so, I said, look, you cannot have me resign based on firing a trigger letter. I went on to say that the PTA bylaws almost obligates me in Purpose Clause D of its bylaws to keep and bear witness to the safety in the public schoolhouses. This is back in the 1800s, 1850 something, when they passed this bylaw in its original form in the PTA bylaws. Back then they were burning down schoolhouses in the South, as you might have guessed. How it survived that long? That's for another day. Nevertheless, another purpose clause, I believe it's C. You can check in Florida if you want. They've changed these since 2013 to bring the home life closer to the school life. Well, what better way than parents in control of a guardianship of the finances of a school, funded bypassing the school superintendent? Think about that. Is that bringing the home life to the school life? I think it does. Parents really involved in the finances of the school, most likely duly elected parents until their children leave the school. A governing board. Parent Guardianship School is what I called it. Just Google Parent Guardianship School, Governing School Act. Those two catchphrases could tell us a story. If you want a direct diary of everything that happened from the very first day, chronologically, KBK8 conversion to charter, period, blogspot, period.com. That'll be the diary. You can see how everything played itself out, including, I must say, very good guest commentaries I made in my hometown newspaper called the Islander News. You will see truth of power there, like you've never seen before. And you'll see a man on a mission, putting his money where his mouth is on behalf of children he doesn't know. Why do I say that? Because the vast majority of Key Biscayne family members and children are recent arrivals from Latin America. Actually, I have to overcome that as well. They're comparing their public schools to ours. I mean, ludicrous as that sounds, it was happening. Miami Herald wrote a fake news article saying that my heart was in the right place. That was basically the biggest quote. Made no mention of the contaminated school building that needed to be knocked down, not renovated. Now, mind you, when I fired this trigger letter, my original intent was already achieved. It was announced earlier that year that the high school, Master Academy on Virginia Key, would finally be built for the people of Key Biscayne who had been waiting 65 years for a high school. We became a municipality, so imagine the wait, even when we were governing ourselves. They say that vision is seeing the obvious before everybody else does. It was obvious to me that the village of Key Biscayne was not crazy about the idea of having a high school. They were just thinking traffic, 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 traffic. My idea, although it was a bluff, it was still a legitimate idea and very plausible, was to convert the KBK 8 Center to charter and soon thereafter petition the school board as a charter school that already was going to be K-8 as a result of this election, but petitioning it for an additional 9 through 12 grades built on the baseball diamond. Or, had they not built Mast, it would have stayed K-8 built on the baseball diamond. And then the old contaminated school would have been knocked down a year later, the following summer, after about 25 months of construction, and built on the north side of the property, adding a field, because now the L-shaped property would permit soccer, football, and baseball, where it only permits baseball. Think about that. But I did measure it for the 3 sports. Well, the final vote was 531 to 31, voting no. Parents said, no way. And of course, the teachers union voted 83-0, no. So it was a complete slam dunk landslide, kind of like the one that Trump and Biden just experienced. Although, albeit with a bit of a scandalous twist, as I am a deplorable. In fact, a Neanderthal, to give you a place and time. I predicted then and I predicted now that first, people would get sick, the renovation of the school. I was denied my freedom of speech throughout the process. As PTA president, you'd think it wouldn't have been difficult to talk about this conversion to charter initiative I was presenting before the entire student body, but I wasn't allowed to speak about it, talk about it. I could only walk around and hand out flyers that they were attempting to block. So I was left with just walking around on the sidewalk. And it was my understanding that the principal of the school was going to the police station and complaining about what I was doing, as if the police would dare to stop me. I mean, we're talking about denying my civil rights formally by a government. So everybody left me alone, but I wasn't allowed to have meetings about it. I couldn't really do question and answers. So in the end, they asked me to resign 89-3 on that night in the cafeteria. 10 people stood up who knew me as youngsters. We were, raising kids together, saying, this guy's fighting for our kids. And he's right. We do need a better school. So I'm assuming those 10 were part of the 31 that voted yes. But I was made out to be the bad guy, kill the messenger. It worked, and you saw the vote tally. So ever since then, went up to Tallahassee, realized how many Republicans had sold me out, didn't really care to amend this law. The list is a fairly long one, but the most heinous or the most disgusting or the most politically treacherous from a Republican standpoint is a list of about, you count them, starting with Mike Beleca, rat. Carlos Trujillo, rat. John Legg, rat. Kelly Stargell, rat. Senate President Matt Gaetz' dad, Don Gaetz, rat. The reason why I chose to mention Mike Beleca first was before he was termed out, 3 years later, I believe, he wrote, sponsored, and advocated for the largest reparation law of Reform, Reformation Law, excuse me, that excluded the amendment to Florida Parent Empowerment Law, 1002-33, Clause 3B. Think about that.